And we are back on the late shift with Will Merrill, and my first guest this evening needs no introduction. So guess what he's getting, y'all? An introduction. That's right. In late shift history, y'all, this is the very first guest that we've ever had that is a pastor, y'all. And not only is he a pastor, he is the pastor from Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. My pastor, Fred Jeff Smith. How you doing today?
Doing very well. How are you, sir?
Thank you so much for clocking in.
How you doing? Fine.
Good.
So, the very first thing that I want to ask, it has nothing to do with nothing at all, but being at Shiloh for the past few years and becoming a member a while back, I've noticed that you use the word experience a lot. Whenever you say worship experience instead of a church service, whenever someone dedicates themselves to join the church, you always say through the Christian experience. Is that
Right.
something that you purposely say, or is that just something you kind of...
Something I was taught from my father,
Okay.
who served as pastor of Shiloh for 50 years. Service is something that you do when you leave the worship. The worship experience should be something that edifies you and prepares you and equips you to go back out into the world and render Christian service. So we use the word experience in that regard. So that's where that comes from.
Awesome. And you mentioned your father, the late great Reverend Charles T. Smith, and you come from a very long lineage of pastors and being involved. Was that something? Did you see yourself becoming a pastor, following in their footsteps?
I have known since I was 6 years old that I was called into the gospel ministry.
That's awesome.
I didn't publicly acknowledge my call until I was 19. I told my father and my mother and my grandmother who lived with us at the time, and all of them said, well, you pray about it, and when you're sure, you come back and let us know. So from 6 to 19, I was praying about it. But at the age of 19, I publicly acknowledged my call. But pretty much all of my life, this is what I've known that I was going to do. I'm the third generation in my family. My grandfather pastored Shiloh for 25 years. My father pastored it for 50 years. And now I'm closing in on 10 years as pastor of Shiloh.
That's awesome.
So, and you know, it's interesting. This is August. First Sunday in August made 41 years since I preached my first sermon. So I preached my first sermon at 19. First Sunday night in August of 1981. So it's been a minute.
Okay. Do you remember that message that you...
Yeah, I was about to say, how was the experience?
It was an incomparable peace. John chapter 14, verse 27. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world gives, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Yes, that's what I preached that night.
That's awesome. Yeah. You have this amazing way to be able to reach beyond generations. You know, your congregation is full of people that's been at Shiloh for years, that's also bringing in their families, and then of course they're bringing in the next generation. How is it that you're able to reach and impact so many people from different age brackets and...
Well, we thank God that we came into a situation where a strong foundation had already been laid. I take no credit for anything that Shiloh is doing. All I have done is tried to expand on the 50-year pastorate that my father had. If you look at the sign in front of Shiloh when you drive up, it says Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Charles T. Smith. And it's been like that ever since the sign was up. Somebody asked me, well, when are you going to put your name up there? And I said, when hell freezes over. that sign will always stay like that as long as I have anything to do with it, because Shiloh was built by Charles T. Smith and by the membership of Shiloh that enfolded him and supported his ideas about holistic ministry. What we have simply tried to do is build upon that. I had a great mentor, a great teacher, and I pray that I'm doing a good job of carrying that forward.
Well, I believe that you are, and I thank God for you for welcoming not only me and my family, but all of us as well, you know, and hopefully able to reach some viewers out here tonight, you know, and make sure y'all become saved out here, you know.
We have a calling today, okay?
I'm just saying, you know, y'all watching this, y'all make sure y'all heard the Bible scripture.
I have a question, Pastor, like, how hard is it to be a pastor? Like,
Well, don't ever go into it to make money, because that's not going to happen. I know everybody looks at the mega pastors and what have you, and they get their criticisms for how much money they make. That is so far outside the norm. Most pastors, but the average size of a Baptist church in this country is about 50 members. Okay, Shiloh is a little bit larger than that, but that's the average size. And so when you're serving a congregation of that size, more often than not, you are bivocational. And that means that you are not only devoting time to the church, but you're also devoting time to another job. You're teaching school, you're working construction, you're selling insurance or real estate, you're doing something else, which means that there's really not a whole lot of time for your family. And quite often, family life suffers. If you don't pay a lot of attention to your family, it can suffer because you're devoted to these other areas of your life, simply trying to keep food on the table as well as fulfill the call upon your life. So when I first started pastoring in 1986, I pastored a small church in New Orleans, Louisiana, First Free Mission Baptist Church. I was making the grand sum of $300 a week, $15,600 a year in 1986, and that's a difficult. That's a difficult way to go.
Yeah.
I served there for 6 years before I moved back home and assumed the pastor of the Greater Mount Carmel Baptist Church in Scotlandville. And they took me from $300 a week to $500 a week, and I thought I was the richest man God ever put on the face of the earth. But it takes a toll, because as much as we talk about the spiritual aspects of one's life, and they are the most important thing, you have to put food on your family's table. Your children want to eat just like your neighbor's children have to eat. Your children want to wear clothes, they want to go to school, they want to enjoy the recreational things of life, and it's your responsibility to provide for those needs.
Okay.
And so sometimes you're torn between your devotion to the ministry and your devotion to the needs of your family. And I have seen, not a lot, but some who have just left the ministry because they simply could not take care of their family doing ministerial work.
Well, some say that, pastors are almost like doctors. So how, you both save lives, but, how would you compare yourself to something like that?
I'm simply trying to meet the needs of people as they present themselves, as they present them to me. I'm not one of these pastors who's terribly invasive in people's lives. I don't preach hellfire and brimstone. I would prefer to focus on the joys of heaven than focus on the horrors of hell.
Sure.
If people invite me into their lives, into their marriages, into their trials dealing with their children or their jobs, I'm more than happy to step in. But if you don't invite me, I don't feel like I have the right to just invoke myself into those situations. And so I wait until people present their needs to me, and then I try to provide a response for that the best way I can.
Okay.
It's good that God has blessed Shiloh to be a church that is able to meet so many different needs. Again, referring back to my father, he believed in something called holistic ministry, that Jesus served the total man, not just the spirit, but the body, the mind. And Shiloh is developed around that whole idea of holistic ministry, and we have simply tried to perpetuate that and keep that going.
Okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So one thing, to change the direction of the topic here. One thing I can admire definitely is the fact that you're able to inspire and give hope, and provide hope for those who need it, and be able to, tell people to, hey, lean on your faith and stuff like that, and to be able to know that, things will become better in the future. But you're also a Dallas Cowboys fan, so
Oh my God!
wow, how do you
By default.
You went down the street, around the corner. determined to come back to that. But okay.
Shots fired. Okay.
I am a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Do you think the Cowboys are going to make the playoffs?
No. I'll be totally honest with you. I think that based upon what happened in the first preseason game, 14 penalties.
Yeah.
14 penalties.
I mean, it is like the practice squad, you know.
He said that he was going to work on that in the offseason. I don't see where a whole lot of work has been done in the offseason. If you had 14 penalties in the first preseason game, the best thing I can say is that the NFC East, which used to be the greatest division in pro football, is now the weakest division in pro football. So it is highly possible for the Cowboys to make the playoffs. But as has happened in the last couple of years, they make the playoffs and then
One and done.
in the first game. One and done.
You know, hey.
I have to own that. But man, you went a long way to get to that.
He did not think that was going to be the end of the ball.
I went around. Came back. It was just like,
Wow.
Yes.
That was a good one, though.
Well, I do want to play a game, but before we go to the game, we're going to go to this quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after this. We are back here on a late shift with Pastor Fred Jeff Smith of Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. Now, before the break, we said we were going to play a game.
Yes.
The game is called Initial Answer. And basically what it is that we ask you random questions.
Okay.
And you have to provide an answer, but the answer has to start with the first letter of your first name.
Okay.
So, all your answers start with letter F.
Okay.
Now, Corday is reigning champ, so she's undefeated. She's a whole dynasty. She the Patriots of
I've been trying week by week, okay? Week for week.
Well, she'll probably still be the reigning champion when we're done.
So, I'm going to ask y'all questions, and we're going to see who can come up with the answers, all right? Okay, so, y'all ready?
It's the Lord. Go ahead.
All right. Name a musical instrument.
Flute.
A chime?
Like the app?
Clarinet.
There you go.
I was going to say clarinet. I don't know. I'm not in the band.
Because said cello.
Orchestra.
Name a type of food.
Fettuccine.
You got all the easy ones now. Come on.
It's the same question.
Cantaloupe.
That is a food. That is a food. We'll take that. What can you do on a cell phone?
Cuss.
I would have said call, but okay.
There's multiple C's on there. Copy and paste.
I'm trying to think, with an F, what can you do on a cell phone?
Ooh.
Forward.
Well, you had a Motorola Razor.
Okay, now you're insulting me. You can call forward, but that's C. So
You say forward a message.
Forward call.
Okay,
How about that?
forward call.
There we go.
Forward a
We'll
message.
say forward call.
Forward an email. Same thing.
Name a clothing brand.
Calvin Klein.
All right.
Fruit.
I don't know if you know this. Forsyth.
Forsyth.
Forsythe.
I was gonna say Fruit of the Loom.
That would have worked as well. I like Forsyth. And better well known before. They make shirts.
Oh, okay. Well, we roll with Forsyth. That
I might
might be
Google it.
I'm about to say that might be some new design we don't even know about.
We're gonna be Foresight next.
All right, finally, name a channel on television or Roku.
CBS.
Fox. There we go.
And it took me a minute to think of that because I don't watch Fox at all.
I don't think any of us watch Fox.
Unless Cowboys are playing.
How about those Cowgirls?
Well, Pastor, thank you so much for clocking
Thank
in
you
with
for
us.
having me. I really appreciate it.
You can let everyone know where they can get the worship experience or any contact information.
Shiloh is located at 185 Eddie Robinson Senior Drive. We worship at 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock a.m. We are available virtually on YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo. So you are welcome to join us in any or all of our worship experiences. And thank you again for having me.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you
so much. Thank you.
All right.
And we'll be right back after this.